What an unbelievable All-Ireland semi-final. 314 to 22 points. Tyrone with the win after extra time. It was just an amazing, unbelievable game we've seen here today. And I don't think many people thought that the underdogs Tyrone would be in the All-Ireland final against Mayo.
Yeah, they were definitely to rank outsiders, and there wasn't too many predicting that, and the bookies weren't, and a lot of supporters weren't. But I think Kerry people knew that they were always a team that were, capable of causing Kerry a lot of trouble. They had that kind of pace and athleticism around the field. We knew they had quality forwards, and it was just a question of what COVID was going to do to them, and obviously it didn't do very much.
And what happened? Let's talk about Kerry first. What happened? What went wrong for them?
They just didn't perform on the day. I think David Clifford was probably their best player, their best forward certainly. He was the guy getting scores. He was the guy leading the attack, and when they lost him through injury, it was obviously going to hurt in extra time, and ultimately that's the way it transpired. But there wasn't enough Kerry fellas that played well in the day. For long spells, you had only two guys that had scored from play, himself and Shawnee Shea, before a couple of other guys chipped in. Defensively, they had done okay. They had denied, their Tyrone big players, big chances. Jason Foley had done well on Matty Donnelly and McCurry. Tom Sullivan had done really well there. So Kerry had done a lot of the things they wanted to do. They did very well on Niall Morgan's kickouts. They did very well on their own kickouts. So they would have had a plenty of, they've been very happy with the platform that they had. But they just didn't play. The forwards never got going. They kept, running into Tyrone, and Tyrone, tackled really well, turned them over. And Kerry looked very rusty. I think you could see the 5-week layoff. They had something like 17 turnovers in the first half. They had something very similar in the second half, and that's very un-Kerry-like, and the decision making wasn't where they would obviously like it to be.
Exactly, very un-Kerry-like. And those turnovers, we watched them here, and we turned to each other every time nearly, that they were massive, and they provide that bit of intensity then for Tyrone to push on that bit more, and they feel like, here, we have one up. When you do get a turnover, that's how you feel.
Yeah, and that's what, look, Tyrone get their energy from making Kerry, forcing them into mistakes, and they force so many in contact, which was, unusual for Kerry, knowing that, Tyrone want you to go into contact. They want to hit you and they want to take the ball off you, and their tackling was really good, and the referee left them, left both sides play that extra little bit, and probably a little bit over the line at times, but you have to play the referee and play the rules as much as anything else. And I just thought that tackling, the 5-week layoff of Kerry, the very, very rusty performance, too many turnovers, and then Tyrone were very good on the other side, and they took their chances when they presented themselves.
You mentioned the referee's performance. Did that have a part to play today?
I was has a part to play. It was, there was probably a couple of decisions on both sides. I thought the Tyrone black card was probably a bit harsh, and I thought there were several kind of half fouls that weren't given. But look, I'm sure both teams, when you sit down and look at a game and you do a Rassi Erasmus on it, and you pick out every decision that the referee made, there's always a side that's going to have a quarrel. But in general, both teams, had enough chances to win the game, and Tyrone were the ones that ultimately did it.
They were, and they will be in the All-Ireland final. They had that energy we spoke about. They had that energy, especially in extra time. We've seen them running almost as if it was the start of the first half. They're running from defence to attack, that sort of running game. And as we said, they obviously had the outbreak with COVID. Where did they get that energy from, Mike?
I don't know, but they certainly recovered really well. And when Tiernan McCann came on, and he went off shortly after that with a head injury or blood injury, and when he came back on, he was leading that charge. And there was times where they were flooding down the field in 4s and 5s, and they could have nicked a goal even in that time again, just because of the energy and the pace and the athleticism that they had. And Kerry were certainly waning in extra time, and again, without big leaders like David Moran, who was gone off with an injury, and David Clifford, it was always going to be an uphill battle for Kerry, but they battled manfully in extra time. But ultimately that energy and that bit of athleticism that Tyrone had, and the pace that they had, like, there wasn't too many of those guys dropping with cramp, and we had a lot of Kerry fellas, which is again remarkable given how badly they were affected, with COVID for the last couple of weeks.
Obviously, David Clifford not playing in extra time is massive for Kerry. But is it psychological too then for Tyrone to sort of say he's gone? He is their main man.
Yeah, and to be fair, Kerry responded really well in extra time, without David Clifford, without that leadership. They did, Diarmuid O'Connor had come in and made a couple of really incisive runs and gave him that bit of energy. Jack Sherwood and these fellas that came on and really tried to carry the fight. But ultimately, you need your players of big quality. And David Clifford look, he had a very disappointing game below in Cork, and you knew he wasn't going to have a second game in a row in that way. And he started the game on fire, and he was, without question, Kerry's best player. And when you lose that quality, it's going to hurt effort. And then the other side of it is, Tyrone were able to bring on Cathal McShane, who finished the game with 1-3 and 1-2 from play, and to be able to have a forward of that ilk to come off the bench and to really deliver the way he did, that was ultimately a big part to play as well.
Absolutely. Just speaking on that bench, I spoke about it through the championship. That's been the difference for Tyrone this year. Just having the likes of Cathal McShane, as you said, 1-3. We had Dara Canavan, even just his energy that he brought. It was just brilliant seeing Tiernan McCann. Is that the difference here today?
Yeah, look, that's always a big part to play. Kerry were looking at the likes of Killian Spillane and Tommy Welch coming in, maybe Micheál Burns, and they didn't get that same impact. One of the few games that Killian Spillane hasn't scored. Tommy Welch didn't score, so you got very little from the Kerry bench, whereas you got a huge shot in the arm from the Tyrone bench. And look, goals are big energy, big parts of the energy and the momentum of a game. And Tyrone got 3, and Kerry didn't get any. And they butchered 1 or 2 chances. Obviously, that Paul Ganey and Stephen O'Brien one in the first half was, I know it was early and they had loads of time to recover, but it was such an easy chance that they didn't capitalise on. There was probably one in the second half with Shawnee Shea and David Clifford that they got nothing out of as well. So, goals are huge turning points in the game, and Tyrone were the ones that looked the more likely to get goals all day.
And Kerry have been tipped to win the All-Ireland this year. That's the talk, especially when we seen Dublin knocked out last week against Mayo. What's happening? We seen it last year with Cork. Do you have the magic answer, Mike? What's going on? To look at this Kerry team, they have All-Irelands in them.
Yeah, but I suppose you got to go and do it then. You have to go and get over the line. And look, I think that's a really good Tyrone team. I think football is on the edge of being in a really, really positive place. Like Dublin, obviously, being so dominant for so long, have nearly kind of ruined the game a small little bit, because so many results were foregone conclusions. Whereas now, I think you're going to have 4 or 5 teams with Mayo, Kerry, Tyrone, and Dublin again. That games are going to be unpredictable again, and they're going to be a toss of a coin to see who wins them. And I think that's going to be great for Gaelic football, because it's given every other county a bit of hope that, what if we really get our house in order, we can be competitive with these guys. And I think that's only a good thing for the game.
Absolutely. Tyrone have a massive team, a massive outfit, and they did come in as underdogs, really under the radar, or a lot of people just didn't really tip them or fancy them today, and obviously we've seen what they done. Do you think that they can go all the way now?
Yeah, it'd be hard to back against them. I think it's going to be a brilliant final between the two teams, and it's going to be very hard to see who's going to be favoured, who's not, because I think, and I said it before the game, I think Tyrone have huge quality. Yeah, they have the athleticism, and the biggest question mark was how they would be physically after COVID and all that. But I think the quality they have starting, the quality they have coming off the bench, obviously Mayo excited everybody with their performance against Dublin. Will they be able to replicate that, that same intensity? I'm sure Mayo people will look at that and get a bit of a shot in the arm. I think they'll be much happier playing Tyrone than they will Kerry, with the history that they've had in the last 10-20 years. So I think it's set for a brilliant final.
And did Tyrone bully Kerry a little bit today? We've seen those turnovers, in the defence. Were they bullying them a bit?
They were the more physical team, definitely, yeah. Bullying them, I'm not so sure. I think it was a lot of poor. I think the Kerry fellas will tell you there was a lot of poor decisions there where they went into contact where maybe there wasn't a need to go into contact. But certainly in the tackle, Kerry would have lost more ball than they would previously against the likes of Cork or Tipperary or Clare. But again, it's a huge jump up from playing, that kind of tier 2 opposition, which the Munster Championship has become for Kerry, to now, jumping to that level after a 5-week layoff. It was very, very difficult for Kerry. But you expected that in the second half and an extra time that they would kind of reacclimatise to the intensity of it, and they tried their best, to be fair, but Tyrone, just once they got their nose in front, they're very good at doing that, and they did to the final whistle.
And just speaking on that intensity, do you think there's anything in the Munster and Ulster Championships? And obviously we've seen Tyrone come through that, and they had a few tough games there. Were they better fit for today?
Yeah, well, I think that's a part of it, definitely. I mean, they played Monaghan and won an absolutely barnstorming game in an Ulster final, and Kerry played Cork and won the Cantor. So it's very, very difficult in terms of preparing you for these types of games. From Kerry's perspective, obviously playing. Yeah, and their league performances were very good, but it's just it's a world away from what we saw here today, and the physicality and the intensity that Tyrone brought to it was something that Kerry haven't seen probably since they were beaten by Dublin in the semi-final or the final replay the previous year. but there isn't a quick fix for that. That's a structured debate that's going to take place in a couple of months' time, and I think we all hope, not just from Kerry's point of view in Munster, but the competition as a whole would get re-energised with a reshaping of the structure of the whole thing.
Absolutely, and I asked the horrible question to Peter Keane there just as I was speaking to him, what his future will be and does he hope to stay on, and he just said, we'll see in time. What do you make? Do you think he'll stay on?
I have no idea. I don't even know what his term is or if his term is up. The easy answer is always to blame the manager in these circumstances. Ultimately, the responsibility for the performance rests with the players on the field, and then the management and the coaching group are all collective within that. But look, they'll be really disappointed with that. I don't think they would have bought into the whole, Kerry are favourites by whatever it was, the margin, and it's just been a very difficult situation for them. And playing as well as they did in the league, playing as well as they did in the Munster Championship, they can only beat what's in front of them. I'm sure their preparation was very difficult leading into the Tyrone game, and they certainly didn't look, like they had it at the right pitch of where they would have wanted to be. But I think a lot of that was brought about by circumstances outside of their own control, really.
And how do you pick lads back up from a defeat like this? Obviously, that's their summer done, it's over. But how do you go again? How do you get that motivation? You've been there, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's difficult, obviously, but I mean, the next few days and the next week or two will be very, very difficult for Kerry because they will have seen the opportunity that was there in front of them with Dublin out of the picture for the first time in 7 years. But as we all do at every level, you'll go back to your club, you'll feel sorry for yourself for a while, and eventually some fella in the club will start, taking a mickey out of you, and it'll break the ice, and everybody gets back to playing a bit of football, and they'll enjoy their season playing with their club championship and whatever it is, and play a bit of golf and get back to enjoying your life, and then you'll start to worry about this again when you come to whatever it is, October, November, December, and worry about having another assault. And I think there's too much made of, the whole idea of picking fellas up. Winning and losing is a part of the game, and if you stay around long enough, especially in intercounty, you'll ultimately lose more than you're ever going to win. So they'll be fine. They'll get themselves right when they need to.
A majority of the time, sometimes the losses can be the making of a team, and you learn a hell of a lot from it. And you're speaking about club there. The lads will go back to their club now, and it'll be all focus on that. What about you? Are you back involved with your club at all?
I am. I'm working in the heady heights of my under-11 team with Kerrys O'Reilly's blood there. It's it's the most fun I've had in a couple of years. Yeah, my own lads are playing under-11, so we're training tomorrow morning actually. So I'll be down for that, and that's good fun. Look, everybody's the same. We're all trying to help out the next generation of it and make sure the kids are having as much fun as possible. And my two boys and my small girl will be down there kicking ball, and look, like the likes of David Moore and Tommy Welsh are our club mates, and they would have been down there, a couple of weeks ago, walking around, talking to the kids, taking pictures with the kids, and that's what it's all about. Like the big days in Croke Park are great, but it's about everybody being attached to their own community and having that connection, and that's ultimately where the players will go back to and they'll find most comfort in.
Yeah, definitely. And how would you sum up then the whole championship as a whole?
Well, I think the last couple of weekends have really ignited the thing. I think up to that point it's been, a bit disappointing in terms of the quality of the fair or the closeness of the contests. Whereas Mayo and Dublin was epic, obviously, in their game, and I thought that was brilliant stuff to watch. Obviously, not the result maybe that I was hoping for, but the game was really good. It was a great contest, and that's what we want. You want the championship to be really good contests that you don't know going into the result of the game, and I think the more games we have like that and the more teams that can get to that level, look, it's brilliant for the whole association.
Tyrone, Mayo, All-Ireland final, I don't think anyone would have called that at the start of the year.
No, there wasn't too many clairvoyants on that wagon, no. And it's it's great. It's going to be a really, really interesting final. And again, like, you wouldn't be in any rush to call a winner of that because they're two proper good teams. And right now on a Sunday evening or Saturday evening, like, both of those will be sitting at home thinking we can win this now, and that there's no big hang-ups over Kerry or Dublin or whatever. So look, it's going to be really novel. I think for the neutral, it's going to be fascinating. And obviously in Tyrone and Mayo, they'll go bonkers with excitement. Looking forward to it.